Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Justice League the Flashpoint Paradox review. So let's get right into it. The film is actually based off a miniseries that was written by Jeff Johns. Even though it is a 30-issue run, they still managed to fit everything in. This film is actually has an incredible cast. We have Justin Chambers as the Flash, Michael B. Jordan as Cyborg. We have Kevin McKidd as Flashpoint Batman. We also have some awesome cameos by Ron Perlman, Nathan Flanagan, and Jennifer Hale. Just some really good voice actors in this project, and it definitely helps this film immensely. So many character cameos and so many great voices to actually go to those characters. So the setup for this movie is actually really interesting. It deals a lot with Flash and his mother's death and how he feels guilty about that. So after the basically Flash's Rogues Gallery attacks the Flash Museum with the help of Reverse Flash, essentially the Justice League stop them, take them down, and then Flash and Batman have a conversation in which they talk about the death of Flash Barry Allen's mother. And once Barry Allen actually leaves the scene, something happens. Something that I can't really reveal happens, but what got him into this point is that he's in a completely different alternate timeline, and this is probably one of the darkest timelines imaginable. Something happened on the way, something that was changed in the timeline that caused a huge temporal displacement throughout the entire regular timeline. So we go through this film, and in this timeline there's a massive war happening between Emperor Aquaman and I believe it's Queen Wonder Woman, and there is civil war happening basically between the Themyscirians and the Atlanteans, and the Earth is just smack dab in the middle of it, and heroes are trying to essentially fight both sides. So really it's kind of like a one versus one free for all, and both the Atlanteans and the Themyscirians do not care who lives or dies. And we see how this war began. Actually, even more deep into the film, we actually don't set it up. We kind of just get all of this pushed forward to us. But all you need to know is that there is a war happening, and everything that you know from the original timeline is completely different. So here's some things we really do know off the bat that completely identify that Flash Barry Allen is definitely in a alternate timeline. More specifically, and I think what this movie actually focused on, was the death of Barry's mother. She's actually alive in this, and for some reason he's gay. For some strange reason, that's actually mentioned in the when Flash is talking to his mother Barry Allen. She's it's funny because we kind of go through the stages of at the very beginning of kind of confusion. We're as confused as Barry Allen. He sees Captain Cold and Boomerang fighting, and he's talking about, oh, that's the Rogues of Flash. And when he goes to take off, when he runs and then he taps the ring, there's no ring, and then he just plummets on himself, which I thought was funny. So essentially, there is no Justice League. There's the huge war that's happening. Both the Earth, Themyscira and Atlanteans are at war. Even the villains are fighting, are basically trying to assassinate major leaders. There's so many different plot points, but ultimately, what Flash is trying to do is to fix everything, and he's gonna have the help of Batman, who is a much darker version of Batman, whose identity is much different than Bruce Wayne's. It almost seems like there's different origins of every single character, which makes this film very fresh. Well, let's talk about the good, and there is a lot of good in this film. Number one, and first thing you need to actually realize, is that this is definitely not a Justice League animated film. This is essentially a Flash movie. This is primarily a Flash film. Barry Allen is essentially our journeyman in this entire film. I mean, we're with him. He's the main protagonist. He's the guy you're rooting for, along with anyone he sides with. But he it is a Barry Allen Flash focused film, and it's really refreshing. I mean, Wonder Woman got her own film. Superman, Batman, they got their multiple films. Public Enemy, and so on and so forth. Even everyone together as a Justice League. I of course refer to Justice League Doom, and other animated films. But I really like how this is a story about Barry Allen, and even if it wasn't just about Barry Allen, the actual conflicts and storylines and different plot points that happen in this film are incredible. I don't want to go into too much detail, but except for the whole World War III main synopsis. But when you get down to the individual changes that they make, are actually incredible. I am going to have a spoiler warning section in this part of this video, and if you just want to see non-spoiler parts or even my score, you can just click. I'll just flash the spoiler alert frame, and then you can basically click on the screen in the annotation to skip over to my score, so you have no spoilers and you can just watch this film, hopefully taking my opinion with a grain of salt. So a second point I want to make that is really good, this film does really well, is the action scenes. This is probably some of the best action I've seen since Public Enemies, when it was just this massive brawl. But this film does action really well, and I think it's contributed to its animation. I know there's been some complaints saying that the neck might be a little bit too thick, but then again, when you look at their the males' bodies, I mean, they are built, and they do women very well, which I found really good. You have to do women well because Themyscira, or they're bringing their warriors, and it's an all-female race, so you're gonna have that. But still, when I think about that, I think of Atlanteans, both female and male. But definitely, they do. The animation is definitely really, really good. What I think probably is the best thing about this is probably some of the changes from the character designs. When we're talking about animation, we talk about character designs and the different costumes. When you look back at the very first part of the film, we see the original Justice League, and then we flash when we go to the Flashpoint kind of timeline. We kind of get different versions of all these different heroes and villains, and it's not even just their costume has changed, it's that they as a person have changed, which I found very interesting. So one of the only minor gripes I had with this film, and it's definitely not a deal breaker, to any degree, is there are a few cameos in this actual animated movie that some of these characters come in and they get immediately killed or just obliterated, and there were such good opportunities, and not just even characters that were introduced, but new ways, different storylines that basically opened up. But we can also attribute that to this is only an 80-minute movie, and they probably didn't have time to touch on any of those actual notions. But then again, those are some very not even secondary characters, even further down from secondary characters that get killed. But I really would have liked to see utilized a little bit or a little bit more into the film. Oh shit, it's spoiler talk. So if you don't want to get any spoilers, make sure to click on the screen. I'll have an annotation that takes you to the end of the video in which I give you the score. So the out of 10 rating, and if you just want that, go for it. But if you already watched the film and you want to get my opinions on it with major spoilers, definitely continue. If not, click on the screen and it'll take you to my score. Alright, so we're in the spoiler zone. It's like the danger zone, except, no one's going to die. We're not in jets, and Tom Cruise is not your wingman. So essentially, I want to touch on some really interesting points. Just how they characterize every single, how they change every different character. The fact one of my biggest like wow moments where I was just kind of like mind blown, kind of those moments is the how they dealt with the alleyway, like basically the uh, the murder on Crime Alley that creates the Batman, but this time it's not Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is murdered, creating one superhero and one supervillain. The superhero being Thomas Wayne as the Flashpoint Batman. And number two, it is implied that Martha Wayne was the fucking Joker. Mind blown. So different stuff like that. Different things like if at the end of the movie, basically Reverse Flash kind of explains his plan, like any good villain does, and he explains how this was all Flash doing. It was basically by Flash's hand, and how he basically, when he was going through, I guess it would be the time tunnel, and I'm putting my quotation fingers up. It basically knock one thing, and then basically a butterfly effect happened throughout the timeline. So we get the all these different things like Clark Kent, completely misses the Kents and lands up in Metropolis, creating this huge hole. And we have so essentially he's just kind of like, he's almost to a degree of not knowing how to speak. Like he's almost like a Bizarro character. And then when he gets into the stun, he still gets his powers, but it's almost like he's been like a caged animal for all his life, and he doesn't have developed speech or anything like that. So it was definitely interesting to see all these different characters being kind of like reintroduced or changed in significant ways, and even just completely different from the actual regular Justice League we saw at the beginning of the film. I thought all that was great. What I thought this movie did really well is this movie's really dark. I mean, it's fucking dark. And I'm not just talking about throughout the entire film. Of course, I'm talking about throughout the entire film. Like, there's some dark shit, like from Thomas Wayne almost throwing Yo-Yo, fucking off the building and almost landing on the pavement. Like, that shit's dark. The whole fact that Thomas Wayne is a fucking alcoholic, that shit is dark. It's such an even darker mirror of what we saw at the beginning of the film, and what we know from the regular DCU. Even at the end of this film got really dark, and I mean, they say, even on iTunes and IMDb, they say it's PG. Yeah, bullshit. Fucking Wonder Woman cuts off Aquaman's wife's head, decapitates her. Aquaman loses a fucking arm. I mean, you're seriously telling me this is PG? No fucking way this is PG. This is more like 14A, but I guess because there's technically no blood splatter, no gore, then technically, yeah. But regardless if it got too dark all of a sudden at the very end, I do appreciate that that they had the balls to go there, and they definitely did there. Wonder Woman fucking kills Billy Batson, just murders him. So yeah, definitely the movie's much darker than anything that the DC animated movies have been putting out. Maybe The Dark Knight Returns, but still. Okay, guys, so if you either skip to the spoiler part of this video, or just got back from the spoiler part, or you want to just have spoiler free, this is going to be my score. My final thoughts. Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox has been one of the best of the DC animated movies, and I love the fact that it sets up basically the New 52 storyline movies that are coming out. Like, we know that Justice League War is coming out soon, and that's based off Jeff Johns' first story arc for the New 52 Justice League. That's gonna be really exciting. Fingers crossed. Court of Owls movie, which I assume they're gonna make, because that storyline was huge, and I think they did a really good job. I give the Flashpoint Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox a 9 out of 10. I thought this one of the best. Definitely interesting storyline, great casting, great action, great animation. All over, just really good. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. Really, just definitely pick this up. You'll not be disappointed.